Welcome back, everybody. My name is John Sullivan. You're watching Sportsbook Confidential on the FingerLakes1.com network. Coming to you live from the FingerLakes1.com studios in Seneca Falls, New York. And this little show here is to help you learn and grow as a sports bettor. We got kind of a purple haze going on here today. I kind of like it. Getting back to Sportsbook lessons this week, we are going to talk about carryovers and why you should pay attention to carryovers and what is a carryover. And we're going to talk about the recent news about New York State reaching an agreement for mobile betting. It probably will not go live until at least next February, but we're going to talk about what the proposal is and who that will benefit. And the short answer is not serious sports bettors. And then we got baseball starting. The hockey trade deadline is the 12th, which is just a few days away. But we're going to talk NASCAR today. I've actually we won the dirt race with Joey Logano, and we're back with Martinsville, another short track this week. So we'll talk about that race and a little short list of favorites, and we'll see what happens on Saturday night. But before we do any of that, let's do what we always do and update my bankroll. And as you can see, we had a second winning week in a row. Oh my God, what is happening? Extinction level event here after such a horrible start to the year. Starting bankroll was $298. We had UCLA and Gonzaga. Did I spell that correctly? Over 145.5. That was a winner. Went to overtime. Plus $9 to the bankroll. Houston Gonzaga prop, I said that was better odds than if you just bet Houston to win outright against Baylor, and they got thumped by Baylor. Minus $10 to the bankroll. And then we had the Essendon Bombers and Aussie Rules, plus 27.5 points, and they actually won by about 40. That was a thumping that they gave, and against Sydney. And that's plus $9 to the bankroll. Essendon is covered. They covered yesterday morning. They've covered every week this season so far. They're very undervalued in the betting market for some reason. I don't know why, but I should have an Aussie Rules pick for you at the end of the show here, so we'll talk a little bit about that. But you do the math, that's $8 to the bankroll. New bankroll 306, dividing by 30, as we always do because we're trying to remain selective. Our bet size going forward this week is $10. And hopefully we'll keep some winners going and grow that bankroll as we go through the summer. I know it's Masters weekend. I'm not a golf expert by any means, and there are people that cover that way better than I ever could, and I've just chosen to, until I can find somebody willing to come on the show and talk golf, I've chosen to spend my time in other areas. So, but before we go into any sportsbook lesson, let's talk about the New York State mobile betting news. And they had a deadline to pass the budget last week, and they went over the deadline, but they did finally reach an agreement. And included in that agreement is provision for mobile sports betting. So the governor took a very hard line over how betting would be approved in the state, and here's what we have right now. The agreement calls for a 150-day period to accept bids from gaming companies to run the New York State mobile betting. So they're going to let gaming companies, you might think DraftKings, FanDuel, MGM, Will Hill, there's several others, will submit bids to New York State. And New York State's going to select one company. So before we get any further, 150 days is 5 months. So it's second week of April. So that's the second week of September is the earliest they could pick somebody. And my guess is they probably don't pick anybody till after Election Day, which would make it November. So New York's going to select one company to run the mobile betting in New York State. And they will allow up to 4 skins. And for those of you that are not poker players, a skin is a separate website that runs the exact same system as the original. So let's just say, for argument's sake, that DraftKings wins the contract. and they will have the DraftKings Sportsbook, so you can go to DraftKings.com or get the DraftKings app, and you can mobile bet on that. But they will license their software to 3 or 4 different companies, such as like Barstool Sports or Yahoo Sports or Fox Sports. And you could bet on the Fox Sports website, but you're getting the exact same odds and the exact same software and user experience as you are if you were with the DraftKings or whoever was running the show. So the bad news is you may think there may be 4 or 5 companies to choose from, but the bad news is they'll all have the same odds in the same system. So if you're looking to line shop, that's not going to happen. So bad news all around there. So the good news for New York State is the gaming company will split revenues with New York State 51-49. They say revenues, and I assume they mean profits, because if they're talking about wager amounts, nobody's going to make any money. The company will go out of business. They have to be talking about profits. It is unlikely that mobile betting will go live until Super Bowl in 2022. That is the professional consensus of people that cover Albany and some Albany legislators. They say the way that this is set up, it would be New Year's Day at the very earliest that this would go live, and they would probably try to launch it during the Super Bowl because of the marketing impact that such a big betting event would have. So if you're looking to bet in New York State for football season, you're going to be waiting a little longer unless you drive out to your local casino. And there's one other caveat I have to talk about, and that is tribal gaming, the Native American gaming companies, such as the Turning Stone properties and the Seneca Indians properties, the Cayuga Indians properties. They have a gaming compact with New York State. And the gaming compact states that they cannot offer games that the tribal casinos do not offer in 10 counties in upstate New York, including Onondaga and Cayuga County. Seneca County does not fall in that, where Del Lago is located in Seneca County. And I believe Tompkins County is part of that as well. The point being is that in order for New York State not to get sued by the Native American gaming lobby, they may not offer mobile betting in central New York and in substantial parts of the Finger Lakes to avoid getting sued by the tribal gaming lobby and their gaming compact, which they wrote a contract in the mid-90s about who could do what and where. And basically New York State is just kind of flaunting their nose at that agreement. So there may be legal action. So we might have mobile betting in New York State and not even be able to do it here in the Finger Lakes. So it could be a big mess. So we'll have to see what happens. But the bottom line here is if it goes live as it is predicted to in February, it'll be fine for a casual bettor. If you want to get on your phone and bet $20 on a football game that's coming up or a game you're about to sit down and watch, you'll be fine. You'll be fine. But if you're a serious bettor, or you're trying to bet with a profit motive, or you're trying to do things like arbitrage, or you want to bet unusual sports like me, I like CFL and Aussie rules, you're going to be out of luck. And this really leaves me, as somebody who was wanting to bet more and more, no choice but to think about New Jersey and Pennsylvania as betting options. So it's from this studio, it's about an hour to the Turning Stone Casino, but it's also about an hour and 10 minutes to Pennsylvania, depending which way you go. And that gives you access to 14 sports books once you're across the state line. It's kind of a pain to drive that far, but that's what we're looking at. So not real happy with New York State right now. They could have the biggest betting market in the country, but they have chosen to do things this way. So we'll just have to see how it plays out. So let's move on to the sports book lesson for today, and we're going to talk about a carryover. And what is a carryover? And I'm sure a lot of you already know this, but a carryover is a prize pool that is not awarded at its scheduled time. It is carried over to another time. And the most blatant, obvious example of this is a lotto jackpot. We have Mega Millions here in New York State. We have the regular lotto, and we have other drawings that are weekly. If nobody wins the grand prize, the prize is carried over to the next drawing, which is why you have lotto jackpots that might start at 5 million and then they'll grow to 20 million or 25 million, because nobody won over the last few weeks and the prize pool carries over. So for betting purposes, the most common example of carryover is going to be horse racing. And it's actually the New York State betting laws that got me thinking about horse racing again, because it's basically one of the few things that we can do here from the comfort of our home or our telephone or smartphone, is bet on horse races, watch the races, fund your account without any interference. You can just take it right from your bank account or use your credit card or whatever. The problem is, for a lot of bettors, the takeout, the rake, the vig is prohibitively high in horse racing. It's pari-mutuel. It's very different from a sports book. However, with a carryover, you're going to have a unique situation that you actually want to be looking for, as opposed to trying to search for a betting situation that doesn't have a huge rake. But for betting purposes, the most common carryover we will find is horse racing. Very often you'll have a pick 5 or a pick 6, and we have to pick the winner of 5 or 6 straight races. We'll carry over to the next racing day. If so nobody goes 6 for 6 or nobody goes 5 for 5, then the prize pool carries over to the next day. And why is that important? Well, let's take a look. I have actually lost that card, so I'll just talk about it. A carryover is important because you're turning a minus EV situation into a plus EV betting situation. For example, if there's no winner in a pick 6 and they carry over $25,000 to the next pick 6, that means that there is basically no takeout in the equivalent of no takeout in the next pick 6. The amount of money that they would, they might take out 20% for the track take on a pick 6 on any given day. But if there's money being added to the pool because nobody won the day before, that makes it a plus EV betting situation where you're getting more than you should on a typical betting day. And you want to find those situations, especially in horse racing, where the takeout can be very, very high. And in horse racing, certain tracks have what they call mandatory payout, where if the pick 6 carries over for a week or whatever, or 3 or 4 days, they have a mandatory payout on the 3rd or 4th or 5th day, where the grand prize gets paid out no matter whether anybody picks all 6 correct or not. So if you play on a mandatory payout day, you could get 4 of 6 and you could still win a percentage of the jackpot because it had to be paid out on that day. And that's something, you should mark on your calendar. I get an email every day from a couple of horse betting services that email me today's carryovers and what tracks and, how much is carried over. So if I see a mandatory payout, I can go put a ticket in and say, hey, maybe I'll get lucky and maybe I can win a big share of a big jackpot. But it's definitely a plus EV situation for you to wager on a carryover like that. And it's something that we can do from the comfort of our home in New York State, since we have to go to the casino to bet on sports these days. It's a way to look for value bets that you can make and maybe win extra money. I do want to say, though, that as someone who has won a substantial horse racing bet before, you will get a W-2 for your winnings, and they are taxed pretty heavily. So it's a good problem to have a big win, but just be aware that you'll owe the tax man if you win anything over like $1,000 for sure. I think over 600, and they're going to send you a tax form. So that is going to do it for Carryover, a very simple sportsbook lesson, but I want to get back into teaching terminology and teaching betting situations, and I'm getting ready to start my analytics degree in July, and I don't know if I want to get into too much model building before then. But we've got Derby coming up in about 3 or 4 weeks, so we'll talk about the Kentucky Derby futures very soon, and hopefully we'll have some more sports betting lessons for you. So let's move on to NASCAR, and it's the Blue Emu 500 in Martinsville. I'm not sure what Blue Emu is. I think it's like Ben Gay or something like that. So they're at a paved short track in Martinsville, Virginia. They call it the paperclip because it's shaped like a paperclip. And it's 500 laps. I think it's less than 250 miles, but it's Saturday night racing. Teams, they had Easter Sunday off, so they've had 2 weeks to prepare for this race. It's a paved track. They're not doing dirt. They're going to do dirt next year again, but they're not doing dirt for the rest of the year. The Gibbs and the Penske cars are heavily favored in the odds. Joey Logano is on the pole. The pole is based on metrics, qualifying metrics, which are like past performance. It's not based on the car's speed. The one thing is, though, this track you're going to have almost 40 cars on this track. It is super small and super tight. Top speed, lap speeds are going to be like 91 to 94 miles an hour. It's not going to be a fast race. It's going to be hard to get to the front. So cars that are starting in the top 10, you definitely want to take a look at. If they have they don't trade a whole lot of paint, and they can get single file, they'll be very competitive as the night goes on. I see the Busch brothers, Kyle Busch and Kurt Busch, who have not really had a lot of success this year, as undervalued in this race. They're both previous winners. They know what to do to win here. And their odds look pretty good. And drivers that have led a significant number of laps, we have Truex, who's the betting favorite. Logano, who's on the pole. Keselowski, who's had trouble finishing this year. He's been in a lot of wrecks with other drivers. Chase Elliott, Ryan Blaney, Denny Hamlin, and both Busch brothers. Those are guys since 2018 that have led laps in Martinsville. Hamlin's a great short track racer. He's from that area. He's from Richmond, but he's from that Virginia area, and he could be impactful here. So that's kind of a short list of drivers that I would look at. Let's take a quick look at the betting odds. And I'll put that up on the screen here real quick. And you can see Truex is the favorite. Chase Elliott, Keselowski, Hamlin, Logano, Blaney, Kyle Busch 12-1. The Stewart-Haas team has had a really tough year. Harvick 14-1. Bowman and Byron, the Hendrick teams are really well funded. Larson, Bowman, William Byron, all have, they have top shelf equipment if they can find their way into the mix. And then you get into some of these other drivers. Christopher Bell for Gibbs. He's got a good car. It's just going to be tough for him with all these other drivers. Ryan Newman at 80-1. I don't know if he's showing up on there. He is. Ryan Newman at 80-1. Starting sixth in this race. He has won here before. I think a short track, he had his big crash at Daytona the year before last. Missed a significant part of the season. I think a short track is where he's going to excel, and I think that's a great value pick for this race at 80-1. There's a lot of value. I mean, the favorite is 5-1. There's a lot of value in this race. They've been giving NASCAR, it's been very hard to handicap this year. They have a new car with a new spoiler. The teams definitely have a lot of new drivers. It's been a very difficult season for the bookmakers to handicap it with any sense of sharpness. So there's a lot of value on the table, and that's why I've been covering NASCAR heavily because that's where the value is. So let's just wrap it up, and we'll do my picks, and I'll start with NASCAR. I'm going to take Ryan Blaney 8-1, Kyle Busch 12-1, Bowman and Byron are both 25-1. I'm going to take Kurt Busch at 30-1, and Ryan Newman at 80-1, a quarter unit each. So that's a unit and a half total on those 6 drivers. And then in Australian rules, I'm going to take the Hawthorne Hawks plus 10.5, minus 111 against the Fremantle Dockers. And my cardinal rule of betting is you never bet against a team named after Chino Pants. The Dockers are just decimated by injuries, and they've struggled in the last 4 or 5 years. They're not getting any better. The Hawks are considered a lower tier team. They're also 1-2. But I think with plus 10.5, they're plus 150 on the money line, which I like a lot. But I think the much safer bet is to take the 10.5 points here. They only have about 5 or 6 players out. They've had a horrible kicking percentage going into this week, which they're way below the league average, and they kind of have to come up to, you're kicking 38%, where 50% would be considered above average. But 46, 48% kicking, trying for goals, that would be league average. And I think that if they're anywhere close to league average, they're going to cover this game easily. So hopefully we'll get a nice big winner in the NASCAR and boost our bankroll. But otherwise, hopefully we will just win on the Aussie rules and cover our most of our bets on NASCAR. So we'll see how it goes. But next week, we'll have another episode for you, another sportsbook lesson, and cover some Twitter news. There's a lot going on in the sports betting world online and social media, so maybe we'll take some time with that. But I appreciate you spending some time with me today. I hope you enjoy the great weather we're having, and I hope you get some winners this weekend. And I'm going to play the outro music for you, and we will see you next time, folks. Take care.